Well, good morning. We're here at the Lincoln Children's Zoo, and we're gonna spend a little time talking with zookeeper Stephanie about these armadillos. Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit about these armadillos?
We have two armadillos here. This is Mom and her offspring, Jimmy. So we have Fizz and Jimmy here.
Okay. So I can tell that they have these a shell on the outside, but otherwise, how do you tell them apart?
So Fizz is a little bit bigger. Because she's older, her shell is a little bit more worn than Jimmy's is. So Jimmy looks a little bit more, I guess you can say, new, but he has a brighter shell and he's just a little bit smaller than she is right now.
So what kind of animal is an armadillo? Are they mammals? Are they reptiles?
These guys are considered a mammal. They do fool a lot of people because they do have this hard outer shell. The shell is made out of keratin, which is the same stuff that your fingernails and your hair is made out of. They have underneath, they do have fur, or not fur, but little hairs. Can I pick you up, buddy? There we go. So you can see, he's got little fur there. These guys do produce milk for their young, which are characteristics of mammals.
Wow. So I noticed when you picked Jimmy up that he had these claws that came out. What are those for?
Yeah, so these guys are insectivores. So they spend a lot of their time looking for bugs. So these long claws on their front feet are used for digging and being able to rip open rotten logs to get to those bugs. They like to eat termites and ants and any kind of small bug that they can come across.
What kind of environment do these armadillos live in?
So these guys are found in South America. They like it to be nice and kind of a dry heat or warm. And then they're found kind of in the grasslands. So they need it to be nice and hot, but they don't like kind of the tropical weather. So they need more of that kind of that dry grassland area.
Is that why they're a yellow color as well?
Yes, so they kind of nicely blend in with that, their habitat.
So how do the parents help the young survive in the wild?
So in the wild, these guys are solitary. So the female does all the raising of the young. She has only one offspring at a time, and she will protect that young in the den until the baby is old enough to come out on its own. Once it does, the baby will just follow her around and learn from her until it's about a year old. And then almost a year old. And then it takes off and leaves on its own. So for that first year, it's following her around, kind of learning the places to dig, learning what things to eat, what things are safe to eat, and things like that.
Do armadillos need protection from predators?
They do, but their main protection is what they are wearing. So they have this shell, and what they will do is they are born with that instinct to just kind of curl up. So they are actually born with their shell. That shell, they start off pink. It hardens within a couple of hours, and they are able to curl up right away. They're able to walk right away. They're able to do pretty much anything except for see. It takes them a couple weeks before they're able to open their eyes. Whenever there's a predator or anything like that, something that scares them, they will just curl into a ball, and they can stay that way for hours. And then that shell is pretty impenetrable. It takes a lot of force to be able to penetrate that shell. So they're wearing their protection with them. Like I said, that shell is just really, really tough to get through. They will also sometimes just curl up partway, so they're only halfway shut. And then if a predator goes to stick their nose inside to get to their underbelly or their paw, they'll snap shut. And then pinching that nose or that paw, it does not feel good. It's like getting your finger slammed in a car door, and hopefully that will deter that predator enough that they will leave them alone. So that's their other defense as well.
That spot right there looks really sharp, so I would imagine it would poke the
it
predators.
does not feel good at all.
Have they done that to you?
I've gotten my finger caught once or twice.
So what are some unique traits to armadillos?
So they got a few. One of them is their shell on their head. They have these unique patterns, but the pattern on their head is just like a fingerprint for us. So each one on each armadillo is different and it's unique to them. So that's really kind of the only way that you can tell an armadillo apart from another armadillo is by those patterns on their head. Armadillos are the only mammal to have a shell. They're called scutes. The three-banded is the only armadillo that can curl into a complete ball. Let's see if she'll do that for us. There you go. You want to curl in?
Oh, look at that.
So he fits together very nicely, just like a puzzle piece. So there's his head, there's his tail. And like I said, he can stay that way for hours. So there's not a whole lot that can get through here. And open that up. And these are hinges. He's got 4 of these hinges, so we call them three-banded because the 3 bands are there in between. And the 9-banded would have 9 instead of the 3. So yes, so then on his feet, he's got those scales there. Those are nice and hard as well, to help for more protection there on his feet. These guys can also hold their breath for up to 8 minutes. So because they do a whole lot of digging for bugs, I'm sorry buddy, I'm gonna put you down. They can get a lot of dirt back into their mouth, and so they need to be able to hold their breath. But then underneath, he's got these pockets on their sides, and that allows them can actually help them become really good swimmers. You wouldn't think armadillos would be good swimmers because they have this nice hard shell, but because of those pockets, they can have air inside them, and so when they're swimming across, they kind of float along the top, or they can release the air and sink to the bottom and then kind of walk along the bottom. So armadillos are actually pretty good at swimming, and because they can hold their breath for up to 8 minutes, they can get across pretty good bodies of water if needed.
So I noticed that they're rooting around in here. What are they doing? What are they looking for?
Yeah, so these guys are looking for bugs. So we have lots of different bugs that we feed them here at the zoo. They get mealworms and waxworms, and these guys have a great sense of smell. These guys have great hearing, and a lot of times they can hear bugs moving around underground, and they can smell them, and so then they can use those claws to get them.